Hello, replay viewers, and hello there, Trudy. Good to see you there, Tracy Taylor. Welcome. All right, let's turn on this gimbal here. There we go. All right. Oh, yeah. You know what I figured, Trudy? It is Martin Luther King Day. So I think it's only appropriate that we do this today. All right. We're good to go. Yay. Let's do it. Let's tour. Let's tour. Come on, phone. Good to see you, Phantom. Welcome. Come on, Gimbal. Level out. Level out, Gimbal. Level out. All right. Here we are, Central Park. Good to see you there. April's in the house. Ah. Ooh. There's still a little snow left. Ah. All right. Let me catch my breath from climbing the stairs, because I'll be getting a lot of exercise today. Here we are, 5th Avenue, 59th Street, Plaza Hotel. We're going to go through like a couple of 100 years of history right now. Good to see you, TYC. Welcome. I tell you, I got plenty of sleep last night. I day drank perfectly. So I'm ready to tour. Central Park and Brooklyn Bridge are, yes, one of the anchorages I believe on the Brooklyn side of the Brooklyn Bridge was like an old African-American settlement. Comments are flying now. Boa tarde, Brazil. Robinson Lopez, good to see you. Yes, the Vox. Vox put up a video about Seneca Village, and I was like, you know what? I gotta go up there and live stream this. So here we are on a very cold day. Unfortunately, it's so cold that the gimbal does not want to accept the weight of the lens and the counterweight. So unfortunately, I do not have the nice wide-angle lens on today. Yes. Right on the River Cafe side, right? Yeah. Because, you know, they were like dock workers who used to live over there. But where we're going today is probably the first recorded free African-American settlement in probably the United States. Not necessarily just here in New York City. But what we're going to do is we're going to make our way all the way up to the Upper West Side in the 80s. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of remnants, and then there's a series of signage which shows us where all the buildings were in the town and everything. And it's my first time seeing it. I was reading up on it on the way up here, and the history is quite fascinating and amazing. So that's what we're going to see today. Might as well take a little walk through the park. Let me not waste this day, I said to myself. Let me not waste this day. Let me get out and show you guys a proper live stream. How's the weather today? It's cold, baby. Feels like 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Good to see you, Cup of Joe. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But as we make our way up, we have entered the park at 59th Street. And we're going to go to our first remnant, which I've showed you guys a few other times before. We're going to make our way over to the grid marker bolt right now. No, the signal's good. I'm on Verizon. I have live streamed in this area before, so I don't sense any problems with the signal. We should be good. We should be good all the way. But let me know if the signal starts dropping out, guys. Let me know. All right. So now we're on on one of the drives here, making our way up to the beginning of the mall. But before the mall, before what used to be the Marble Arch entrance to the mall, there's a little remnant here from 1811 that I want to show you guys to kind of put into perspective the timing that we're going to be talking about. Good to see you there, Matt. Blondie's in the house. Good to see you, Blondie. Welcome to a very cold Central Park. I was trying for a solid 10 minutes to get this gimbal to work with the lens on, but it wouldn't do it. There are a few relics there, Trudy. A few relics. Live from New York. And don't forget, if you like this nonsense, do me a favor. Smash that like button. It lets me know that I'm valued in the universe. I mean, just kidding. But I figure since today is Martin Luther King Day, might as well do this little tour for you guys, because I've been meaning to do this tour for you guys for a while now. But you're going to see me walk like 3.5, 4 miles. So when Central Park is built, it's the 1850s. Construction of Central Park begins in 1855. And this section of the park that we're in right now opened up when the park first opened up in 1858. But the reason why the park is in the shape that it's in, a rectangle, it's because of this little thing called the grid plan. And I am overdressed. And this grid plan was introduced to the island of Manhattan in 1811. Now, by the 1850s, the city is still pretty far away from where I'm at right now. The city is just at around 42nd Street. And the rest of the way, it was literally just dirt roads. And pretty much only the most mobile people with their own horses and carriages were able to get up here. But when Seneca Village, or when Central Park is decided on, its placement is decided on, this is not a vacant area of land. There are quite a few people who live in the entire area of Central Park. Central Park is 843 acres, or 341 hectares of land. Don't stare, folks. Don't stare as I stare right back. They want to hear my stories. So there's roughly like 1,800 people living in this area when Central Park construction begins. But in Seneca Village, it's like around 325. It was a full community, and I will show you that. But when the plans for Central Park are revealed, the press begins to call the people who lived on this land squatters. They didn't pay their taxes. They didn't contribute to society, if you will. So many mistruths were spread about them in prominent publications like the New York Times and whatnot. If anything, you had solid communities that were here within the park. But it mostly considered, no squatters' rights. They owned their land. They owned their land. So these people were not squatters. They paid taxes. But we'll do this as we make our way through the park. We entered here at Grand Army Plaza. We're making our way up north now, and we're going to go through the mall. But before the mall, let me show you the reason why Central Park is a rectangle. But these people were not squatters. It was a self-sufficient community. Churches, a bar, a school were all within these confines of what is today Central Park. Good to see you, Cecilia. Welcome. But the first thing we're going to see, exactly, it was an established town. But the entrance to the mall is right over here. But if we go up this hill over here, I will show you something. In 1811, land surveyor John Randall Jr. lays out what is today called the grid plan. And at all of the major intersections, he either planted a marble marker, or in many cases, good to see you, Anders, or in many cases, just a simple spike in the ground. Welcome to the intersection of 6th Avenue and 65th Street. And here is the last grid marker, which was probably placed here in 1812, 1813. Here is the last grid marker in existence. This is why Central Park is rectangle. This is why, because they were adhering to the grid plan. As you see, the simple iron spike is in Mercury, and people, a lot of surveyors were unsure if this even existed, because Central Park is not natural. It is a completely man-made environment. If you want to build Central Park in your hometown, you can. The instructions are on the internet. All you need is 27,000 trees, 9,000 benches, 142 miles of drainage pipes, 58 miles of pedestrian pathways. We used nearly 266 tons of gunpowder to sculpt this rock. This rock is the only natural feature that predates Central Park. The glacier rock is called Manhattan schist, the bedrock of Manhattan Island. But there were some surveyors who were like, well, some of these areas were vastly changed and landscaped, and some of them may have not been. And there were some theories going around whether if any of these grid marker landmarks, or bolts, if you will, still existed. And we still have one today, right here. And this was discovered fairly recently. This was discovered in the late 1990s. But there it is. Are you talking about Forest Park in Queens there, Adam? That's a lovely park. It's a little bit of a leftover forest within that park, predating everything, even predating the Dutch. But now, let's walk through the mall, fall down the well of Alice in Wonderland fame into nature, stage managed. The vision of two architects, Frederick Law Olmsted. Frederick Law Olmsted, he is American-born landscape architect. Calvert Vaux, a British-born architect. Calvert Vaux designs a lot of the infrastructure that makes the park function correctly. Oh, you're in St. Louis, okay. There's a gigantic park in Queens called Forest Park. So, but there's one in St. Louis. Look at that, that's pretty cool. Sounds like we got somebody pressure washing off in the distance. It's kind of amazing. Welcome to Literary Walk here at the southern end of the mall. The mall, the only straight pathway in Central Park. The mall features one of the largest groves of great American elm trees outside of Washington, D.C. In this grove itself, there's around 400 elms, which are all original to the park. These were planted here between 1855 and 1856. And throughout the entirety of Central Park, you can find around 3,000 great American elms. There's 400 in this grove. There we go. There are my numbers correct. Maybe the cold is getting to me, but here it is, the mall. Come here in the summertime, come here in the springtime, come here in the autumn, and you can see this place change. Good. We got a good signal. That's good. Hopefully it stays that way. And then we have two noted Scottish authors. To the right-hand side, you have Sir Walter Scott, but to the left, you have Sir Robbie Burns. Yeah, Frostbite on the Brain. You know what this guy wrote, Robbie Burns here? You know what song he wrote? To old acquaintance be forgot, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, Auld Lang Syne. And there's even a holiday for him in Scotland called Robbie Burns Day. Right, beautiful view, right? Even in the wintertime. Central Park, always a treat to walk through, even when it's only 15 degrees. On this little area here, this is where the rich would promenade their wealth. The light is just right. This is where the rich came around to promenade their wealth when the park first opened up. Now, here's a fun statistic. When the park first opens up in 1858, for the first 10 years the park is opened, nearly 50% of all park users have their own carriage. Who has their own carriage in the 1860s? Well, the top 5% earners. They were the only ones really who were able to get up here. For a lot of the Irish and German and even some free African American citizens who built this park, they really weren't even allowed to enjoy it. Sunday for most of these people was their only day off, and there were many rules, mainly enforced on Sundays, which kind of prohibited the working classes to actually enjoy this park. There was no large gatherings allowed on Sundays. There was no music allowed to be played on Sundays. And of course, week-long, you were not allowed to run in Central Park. You were not allowed to walk on the grass in Central Park. There were no games of any sort on any of the lawns, except for very designated and prescribed areas. But now getting back to who was here before Central Park, just over this little glaze of hill right here, we have the Sheep's Meadow. And where the Sheep's Meadow is today used to be a German-owned rock quarry, a German family-owned rock quarry used to be right there. The entire landscape of the Sheep's Meadow is an engineered environment. It's meant so that water will drain off the lawn within just a couple of hours. Your apartment's on 8th Avenue and West 54th Street. Nice. Used to walk to Central Park in good weather. Well, it's cold, but at least the sun is out. Oh, wow. So the machine here in the background, they are making snow. I forgot. Is this weekend the Winter Jam? They're making snow over there. Wow. This is kind of cool. No wonder it's so loud. Let me see. Let me step over here and zoom in for you guys. I can't stray too off the pathway here because I am going to be doing a bit of walking here, so we might go to the Winter Jam. I don't know yet. We might. Yeah, they do ice sculptures. They have like skiing. Look, it's making snow. It's making snow. Isn't that neat? Yeah, I keep missing it too, but they have it on days when I usually can't make it out here. But they're making snow for the Winter Jam. That's pretty cool. You know what? I never see a snow machine, so I'm gonna go a little bit off my. I'm gonna go a little bit off my designated path here. Yeah, I gotta grab the skis. You can actually at the Winter Jam, you could actually borrow a set of skis for free. This area is gonna look so different over the weekend. We actually might get another winter storm this weekend. So I heard some grumblings about snow being imminent this weekend. So we might get another snow swim from the polar bears. We might walk through Prospector Central Park in the snow. Good to see a DLS Sky. Welcome. I know Pennsylvania got hammered. I heard. Yeah, it looks like on Saturday we might get actual real snow. All right. Let's see what a snow machine looks like. Oh, wow. Look at this. Look at that! Oh, that's cool! Wow! I have never seen a snow machine produce snow before. I could check that one off my bucket list now. Yeah, who knows, Trudy? Well, here's the deal, Adam. When Central Park is built, like I said, they plant all these great American elm trees. A lot of great American elm trees died due to this little bug called Dutch elms disease. And because of the fact that Central Park is kind of isolated and surrounded by the city, that kind of kept a lot of invasive species out of the park. This is the only reason why we have all these elm trees here in the park. They were kind of shielded from all the bugs and stuff like that because of the city. So that's why, you used to be able to find great American elm trees everywhere, but now they're all gone. They're all been completely decimated. So that's why I said this is the largest area. Now we got the Asian longhorn beetles doing their job on the trees. And they really do, the Central Park Conservancy, the folks who manage Central Park, they do a really good job of managing the health of all these 27,000 trees. Let's walk into the heart of Central Park. It's time for Bethesda Terrace, Bethesda Arcade, and the Angel of the Waters Fountain. And we're going to get deeper and deeper into the park. This is where we depart from the center of the park, and we're going to go more towards the western side of the park. I'm not going to say too much of anything now because there's somebody playing music. So enjoy the visuals as we pass through Bethesda Terrace. Yes. Yes. Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. That was fun. See, it's an amusement park, folks. Now, this is real. All right. Welcome to Bethesda Terrace. Let me put back on my live streaming glove. Had to give him some money. That was too perfect. That was too perfect not to give him any money. All right. Welcome, everyone. Here it is. The Angel of the Waters Fountain, built to commemorate the opening of the Croton Aquifer, the first freshwater system to serve New York City with drinking water. It's also the first public commission art by the city of New York, designed by a woman. Her name was Emma Stubbins. The fountain references the Gospel of John. She's blessing the waters of Bethesda with her hand outstretched. Now let's keep on going now, because now we're going to go more towards the west end here of the park. And our first stop on our little walk around will be the Delacorte Theater. And then we'll officially be in the area of Seneca Village. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our way up just south here of the Ramble and the lake. No special name, just called the lake. This is where people used to go ice skating back in the day. Low boathouse off in the distance over there. In warmer days, that's where you go rent a boat. Very beautiful architecture. A lot of the buildings here at Central Park were designed by, well, this landscape here was designed by Jacob Ray Mould, but a lot of like the structures here in the park, including the first four buildings here in Central Park, they were all designed by Calvert Vaux. Calvert Vaux creates the infrastructure, where the pathways are going to go, where the carriageways are going to go. And Frederick Law Olmsted, I like to say, he directs the trees. In 1855, as construction of Central Park begins, Frederick Law Olmsted invents a tree moving machine. And a lot of these trees, before they were brought out here to Central Park, they grew to a certain maturity out in New Jersey before coming here to be planted. But he literally spent 12 years going around in a horse carriage, basically moving the trees a few feet to the left, a few feet to the right, until they were perfect. So everything has proper placement, depth, kind of optical illusions, if you will. There used to be crayfish in the lake. I think there still is crayfish in the lake. Is it illegal to carry a gun in New York City? You need a license. You need a license to carry a gun. We're coming up to Bow Bridge right now. Yeah, you can rent a gondola. Remember that you cannot drive your own gondola, though. They do give you a gondolier. Yeah, another invasive species, right? Well, remember, the lake wasn't here, so the lake is filled up with New York City tap water. Off in the distance, directly in front of us, you have the twin towers of the San Remo apartments. And then, as we make our way over here to the west, we also have the Dakota apartments. Have I ever been to Tavern on the Green when it had its old owners? I've been to Tavern on the Green, not with its new owners today. I've been to the old one. When they used to have all the lights decorating all the trees in the back. They had like a King Kong covered in lights, I remember. That's like a couple of dates up there, back in my young days. Who would have put crayfish there on purpose? Yeah, who knows? I don't know. They might have been just a part of like how the park functioned. I really don't know who brought them here. They probably were brought here just to have something to fish. And that was the type of fish that was able to live out here in the water. Remember that all these water features, it's all New York City tap water, so they have to basically find fish that were able to live in this fresh water. Lady Gaga used to live over on 59th Street. Yeah, oysters are making a comeback. Check out the Billion Oyster Project for more information. But there's the Bow Bridge. Right there, designed by Calvert Vaux, made of steel. Original to the park, placed there in 1858. But now I'm gonna get a little bit of exercise. I'm gonna stay warm. It's time for me to climb up Cherry Hill and continue my way north. Making my way up to the 80s, because that's where Seneca Village used to be. Ooh, it feels good in the sun. Doesn't it feel so nice in the sun? It's nice to see a lot of the snow still here. Oh yeah, Trudy. I knew it was going to be cold today, so usually on cold days like today, you kind of get the whole park to yourself and you could really enjoy it. All you gotta do is bundle up. I'll show you what I look like, because I am bundled up. Hey guys, see? Got my hoodie on, got my big jacket on, got a hat. Even though this hand doesn't have a glove, I'm keeping this hand in my pocket. Have any been recent sightings of mandarin duck? No, there has not. No, there has not. Not in a very long time. Hopefully the mandarin duck will make his triumphant return soon here in Central Park. We only got about 1.5 inches of snow here in Central Park, but there it is, Cherry Hill Fountain. This is not the Friends fountain. There's a DVD for the TV show Friends, and in their extras, they say that this is the fountain that is used in the opening. It is not. The fountain that's used in the Friends TV show opening is in Los Angeles, and not here in Central Park. But I don't know why they say that, because I get so many people who come on my tours, and they're like, we want to see the Friends fountain. I'm like, that's in Los Angeles. I don't have an airplane. Let's continue on. Let's continue on. That was a cool moment with the singer there. I love moments like that. That's what makes Central Park such a magical place. You move around the park, you hear different languages being spoken, you hear different music. It adds to the whole wonderland that is Central Park. You know, I think of Central Park as kind of like an amusement park. And the amusement is seeing other human beings enjoy the park. He did have a beautiful voice there, April. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna charter a plane and go all the way out to Los Angeles. The tour just went from 2 hours to 12 and a half hours, depending on how fast we get to and from the airport. Ooh, they got the kiosk open here. Let me see if he has a map here. Hello. Do you have any maps?
We sure do.
Yes.
Are you looking for anything in particular?
Well, I'm wondering if you have the Seneca Village brochure.
I bet we do. Do you know where Seneca Village
Yes.
is? Okay. All right. Here's a Central Park map.
Yes.
And I'm sure we do. They're new.
Oh,
Waha!
my darling.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Have a good day, all right? Stay warm.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye. Yay! We got a brochure. Ooh, now the tour got really good. Now the tour just got really cool. God, I love New York City. God, I love this freaking place. All right. Now we're really good. Oh boy. She probably just saved me a couple of 100 steps too. Here is a statue of Daniel Webster. Daniel Webster advocated for the union of North and South during the Civil War. And most statues of him actually feature him life-size, but here in New York, he is twice his size. Liberty and union, now and forever, one and inseparable. Good to see you there, Dave, from the great state of Georgia, where it's probably nice and warm. Right, wasn't that cool, Melissa? All right. God, I love New York City. God, I love this place. I really do. All right. So in this direction here, this is Strawberry Fields, but we're not going to go through Strawberry Fields right now. We're going to kind of parallel the lake here. It's chilly down there too. Well, like 40 degrees. It is 15. It feels like 15 here in the park today. A balmy, wintry 15 degrees. God, I love New York. All right. Let's just take this in here. Making our way up the western side here, up the lake. This is the area that John and Yoko would always ramble about. In the documentary Imagine, John Lennon's walking right down this very pathway where he meets a fan on the other side of a fence. And the very overexcited fan says, "Hey, you're John Lennon." He goes, "Yeah." And he says, "Can I get your autograph?" He's like, "Sure." And then he just walks away. Look, it's a guy in a banana suit. Or a woman in a banana suit. You never know what you're going to see here in the park. See? That's how you use Central Park, people watching. Look at this great view here of the Bow Bridge. Bow Bridge right there in the foreground, in the background. All that is the Ramble, the most wooded area here in Central Park. That's the area where you go to experience all the birds and whatnot. Here are a lot of tourists now. Maybe they're coming down here from the Natural History Museum. Wonder if the Natural History Museum even open today? I wonder. Seems to be a whole gaggle of tourists here on this side. Not too many people speaking English. Don't you love the covered bridge? Twin towers of the San Remo apartments right there. And from time to time, the gimbal may get a little lopsided here because it is cold. The gimbal does have issues staying balanced in the cold here, but it's doing good considering how cold it is right now. But the twin towers here of the San Remo apartments, this is where Demi Moore and Bruce Willis used to live when they were married. When they got divorced, Demi Moore kept the apartment and she put it up for sale for like $71 million, and nobody ever bought it. I think it's still for sale today. Yeah, me too, Tracy. Yeah. Okay. They lived on the penthouse apartment on the tower on the right-hand side. That's where they used to live. And then right up this pathway over here to our left, this is where Strawberry Fields is. Yeah, I know, TYC. I gotta keep a pace. I gotta keep a pace. This is a bit like exercise. But I said to myself, I'm not going to stay home all day. I am off of work tomorrow. It is so cold that they have canceled my walking tour over the Brooklyn Bridge tomorrow morning. So I said to myself, you know what? Let's do Central Park. And I'm very happy I did. A little bit, TYC. You know what it's all about? It's all about managing warm air in your lungs. Sometimes when you take a really deep breath, especially if you're riding a bike, it hurts sometimes. Or if you're jogging, it hurts. So there is a method to breathing and keeping a certain amount of warm air, if you will, in the reserves. Did I tell you how much I love Central Park and how much I love New York City? Oh yeah, it's much colder here, 15 degrees. The wind chill. The actual air temperature, I believe, is in the 20s. Don't quote me on that, though. I'm actually having a lot of fun doing this live stream, so I really appreciate everyone tuning on in. As people meddle with the geese. Stop meddling with the geese, folks. The geese just want to be. The geese just want to be, damn it. All right, we're coming up. So the Ramble is to our right-hand side right now. We're just at around, I want to say we're approaching 70th Street right now. Or 70, 1, 2, 3, 5th. We're at 75th right now. We're in the 70s, that's what I wanted to say. Oh, nice. Ooh, it is cold out there in Georgia. That's cold, baby. That's cold. Actually, on my podcast, on the way over here, I listened to a kind of a funk music broadcast and podcast, and they were playing Rainy Night in Georgia on the way up here. Love that damn song. Love that song. Central Park, like the Brooklyn Bridge, has a lot of people who want to just get from point A to point B. And then there's just a lot of people in their own little worlds staring into the phone. No, not Eddie Rabbit, no. No. Did Eddie Rabbit do a version of that song? I didn't know. All right. Up and over the little ridge here. I see the Colonnade Apartments right now. I'm beginning to see the Natural History Museum. Oh, I love A Rainy Night. No, not Rainy Night in Georgia. Two different songs. Rainy night in Georgia. It's a rainy night. Oh, it's raining all over the world. Coming up, you may see some trucks off to my left-hand side. We're passing the main maintenance shed for Central Park right now. Elvis has Kentucky Rain, that's correct. That's right, Dave. They need some rain down there in Australia, damn it. They need some rain in Australia. All right. No, I'm not going to go to Belvedere Castle. We're nearby it right now, but we're not going to go up there just yet. Maybe on the way back, we'll hit it up. I'm going quite the distance here on our little walk through the park here today, so it's a very prescribed walk I'm doing right now. That's right, Brooke Benton. There you go, Melissa. 10 internet points for Melissa. Brooke Benton sang the song on Rainy Night in Georgia. Killer song. All right. We're coming up to the 79th Street Traverse, which is right down over there. And we're coming up to the area where Bono almost died. Good to see you there, Gail. Welcome. You heard of the guy, Bono, from U2. He is riding a bike down this very pathway here. And what happens is a pedestrian, we don't know if it was a man or a woman, decided to walk out into the pathway here. Bono was coming down this hill on his $5,000 bicycle. He was speeding. He was probably going like 30, 40 miles an hour. And I don't know if you could see it. Let me zoom in a little bit more here. But right about where this Johnny pump is, where this fire hydrant is, this is where he pretty much wipes out. He tries to avoid the pedestrian. He wipes out. And then from that Johnny pump all the way down to right around here is where he tumbles with his bike. And the problem is that the bike stays attached to his feet. He is clipped in. He breaks his hand, his wrist, a couple of ribs, a leg, an ankle. We were actually worried that Bono would never sing again. But after many, many months of recovery, he is doing fine. And he is out performing once again. I actually got to see Bono after that accident. I was doing a bicycle tour here in the park. It's not on video. Right, his eye socket. He messed himself up bad. But yeah, always a spectacle, Jim. Good to see you. Always a spectacle. But I actually saw Bono on the tour, and I didn't realize it was Bono because he was just a guy covered in blood and spandex. And they were putting him into the ambulance when I passed by here with my bicycle tour. And then like later on when I got home, I found out that was Bono. And the only reason why I know how far and how long he tumbled with his bike is this is the main landmark right here. This is the Swedish Cottage. And this was about 8 years ago now. 7, 8 years ago, TYC. About 7, 8 years ago. But this is the Swedish Cottage. The Swedish Cottage is a prefabricated building, which was built for like the, I believe, Philadelphia Exposition in the 1860s. And I think the edge is still with them. It was a schoolhouse. It was modeled after a schoolhouse. But Calvert Vaux fell in love with this building when he saw it at the exposition. So he wanted to have it immediately moved here into Central Park, and he does. Placed here in the early 1870s. But today this houses the New York City Puppetry Division of the Parks Department. And kids come here throughout the year. I remember myself coming up here and seeing a puppet show in that building. But as we approach the Delacorte Theater, we're coming up to one of our first remnants of Seneca Village. I don't know about that TYC. I don't know what he was recording at the time. But straight up ahead, Delacorte Theater, built by John Delacorte. George Delacorte. George Delacorte. George Delacorte builds this theater in 1961. Basically what happens is, out on the Great Lawn, there are these kind of spontaneous productions of Shakespeare going around, and Robert Moses, Parks Commissioner, he does not like these large gatherings happening here. They're ruining the grass. You'll get up to sometimes 1,400 people watching these performances on the Great Lawn. They were quite popular. For 1 year, 1960, Robert Moses has Shakespeare in the Park banned from Central Park. So then, by 1961, George Delacorte, a philanthropist, the founder of Dell Publishing, he decides to donate money to build a proper stage here. And that's what they do. Because here, just beyond here, the Great Lawn is right up there. And I see my first way marking post. We have made it to the outskirts of Seneca Village. So unfortunately, I do not know how long these signs are going to be here for. But here we are. We're here by the old Croton, part of the Croton Aquifer. This was the receiving reservoir. This is what it used to look like. Oh yeah, look. So these stone blocks right here protruding. These are the remnants of the western wall of the receiving pond. So the Croton Aquifer was completed in 1842, part of that first freshwater system here in the park. As people decide to gather behind me and listen in. But all here was the reservoir, and the town was off in this direction here. So Seneca Village comprised of around 50 buildings, 3 churches, a school, and we're actually going to see a map of Seneca Village all laid out. But right now we're in the southernmost part of the village, and the village kind of grew up right here along the side of the reservoir here. And let me get out of here because people want to listen in here. Which is always the case when we do these walking tours. So, actually, does my Seneca Village brochure here have the map? Let me break this out here. By the way, big shout out to the Central Park Conservancy for making this happen right here. So, it's going to be fun working with this with one hand here. All right. So, when the grid plan is enacted in 1811, beginning in the 1820s, they begin selling parcels of land way far north here in this part of town. This is what the map looked like. And so you see those little darker boxes, those were the actual lots that were owned, or buildings within those lots that were owned. And beginning in 1825, there are a couple of prominent middle-class African-American people, free African-Americans, who bought the first plots of land up here, the Whitehead family. Or Whitehead or White House. I know I'm getting the name wrong, but we're going to see the name in a little bit. But basically, they buy the land here, and that begins the catalyst. Now, mind you, they buy this land in 1825. Slavery wasn't fully abolished here in New York City until 1827. So it was quite a big deal for these free African Americans to actually own land, because when you own land, you create wealth. But what we're going to do right now is we're gonna make our way underneath. We're gonna go down and across here, and we're gonna see one of the businesses that was here in Seneca Village. And then we're gonna make our way into the actual town. But basically what happens is Central Park is then commissioned in the 1850s, and they take over all this land, the entire community was taken over using eminent domain. But see, the real issue was that these people were landowners, but more importantly, if you were an African-American man in the 1820s, you were not allowed to vote unless you owned land. And going by what people are finding in history books and in the census, these people were quite well-to-do. They were wealthy people. Yes, they did very, meager jobs. Like the first landowners here, the family, the man of the family, the head of the family, he was like a shoe shiner. But it was enough money, and of course, this far away from the city, you're isolated. You're in the country. At this point, in 1825, when the first settlers come up here, the city is really far away from us. The city only comes up to around probably 8th, 14th Street, around there. And then the rest of the way, it is very, very rustic. Okay, we're gonna pass underneath the drive here. I'm gonna look for my next way mark here. So now we're gonna go underneath the drive. We're walking into the direction right now of the Diana Ross playground. Diana Ross used to live not that far from here. And in 1983, Diana Ross had a concert here in Central Park in July 1983. And that was when she played here for 2 nights in a row. And the first night, it rained, thundered, stormed, lightning. And in the middle of a downpour, she sang, "Reach out and touch someone's hand." And the diva as she is, the great Diana Ross, she used that wind, that lightning, that thunder, that downpouring of rain to her advantage. And she put on one hell of a performance. All right, so me too, Cheryl. Me too. Let me see. I'm crossing the bridle path. I'm looking for another sign there. Now we're going to the Tannery right now. Oh, I see it. I see the sign for the Tannery. Straight ahead, Diana Ross Playground. We're now at 82nd Street and Central Park West. You know what, Trudy? I have to agree. Eminent domain, when you think about this, when Seneca Village was destroyed, all the people were scattered. They didn't really formulate a new community somewhere else. And it's funny because you have this play out in New York City history over and over and over again. In the name of progress, they uproot these solid communities, hundreds of years old. Yeah, like Barclays, yeah. Like the Barclays Center. But it happens over and over and over again. But this is the Tannery now. We're now beginning to come into the real main parts here of the village. Tanner's Spring. So even though the Croton Aquifer is built, and we kind of walked from here across to we're right about here. So here was the Tanner's Spring, through these trees in a small clearing of pool of water fed by a natural spring. This was likely the first source of water for Seneca Village. And then after a while, once the Croton Aquifer is completed in 1842, even though the aquifer is only 700 feet away from here, the water basically went all the way down to 42nd Street and then came all the way back up in pipes. But this is what, 1901, this is what the spring used to look like. Obviously, this is vastly, vastly changed. But because of the grid plan, this is why people were able to live up here. They were selling the land. But you see, this is the old spring right here, the old creeks, and then these represent hills. And a lot of these hills probably were sculpted. And here's in 2011, they found some artifacts here. And like ceramics like this, poor people didn't own that. Like well-to-do middle class, upper middle class people owned that kind of stuff. So when the New York Times, in order to cast a shadow on the people that used to live here, they literally called this place N-word Village, and that they were squatting and that they were not paying taxes, and that could be furthest from the truth. Now, here's the crazy part. This is something I did not know until today. So roughly 300 people, 325 people lived in Seneca Village, but 2/3 were African American, but 1/3 was mostly Irish and German immigrants, newly arrived here in the city. And the records show that these people went to baptisms together, they went to funerals together, some of them even married. It's amazing. But, you have the draft riots in the 1840s, and, horrible atrocities to the African American culture, to the African American community were made here in New York City. And luckily, we're so far removed from the city at this point that they were safe up here. They were isolated. They were able to live in peace and have a community in peace. Yep, they were considered people of color. We have some more way markers here. We're now in the village. We're wandering the village here. So what is this here? This is, 52 dwellings were concentrated in this area between 82nd Street and 86th Street. On a lot near this sign, 2 homes stood, a house and a shanty, illustrating the diversity of the housing types here in the village. While more contemporary accounts depicted Seneca Village as a shanty town, comprised of small and mostly poor constructed buildings, and its inhabitants were called squatters, of course, like I was saying. The range of buildings actually ranged quite varied here. Most residents did not live in shanties, but in 1 to 2 to 3-story wooden homes. And the archaeological excavations revealed that some of these houses had substantial stone foundations, metal roofing, which indicated they were well built by well-to-do people. Here's actually an image. This isn't Seneca Village, but this is where, I want to say this is where the sheep's meadow is today. But stuff like this, like actual constructed homes, were here. Here's another photo of one of the buildings that was destroyed in the 1880s. Or these were adjacent to Central Park in the 1880s. Yeah, so an entire village was here. And I want to thank Central Park Conservancy for putting out these signs here. But see, look, now we're walking down the lanes. So here's the old grid plan here with the old plots of land, and then superimposed are these little rectangles of the grid. Here's a great one here. This is the old street, and then these were the new streets that were being laid out. And then these were the plots of land that mostly free African Americans and some Irish and German immigrants bought. So the path which we're standing on right now roughly follows part of the main street that went through Seneca Village. And let's see, it identifies this street as Spring Street. So we're standing on this street right here. This is called Spring Street here. Later maps call this street Old Lane, but it was possibly to distinguish this part of the street from apart from the grid that was being built. Although the street grid was represented on this map and represented maps of Seneca Village, it had not been fully implemented on the ground this far north yet. So by 1856, only 86th Street and 8th Avenue are actually up here and laid out. This is really cool. Oh my God, we got a super chat. Tracy Taylor, I really appreciate that. Tracy Taylor, thank you so much. Thanks for the super chat. Really do appreciate that. Let's walk down the old lane here, the old Spring Street here. Yeah, everyone thank Tracy. Really appreciate that. Don't get me started about Black Wall Street there, Phantom. Don't get me started. That is some history that needs to be told. They're still finding the mass graves for Black Wall Street. Again, entirely self-sufficient town erased from existence. You're more than welcome, Tracy. It is my pleasure doing these walks for you guys. Now, I've never seen Watchmen, no. It is very tragic. Tragic's not even the word. It was horrible what happened. But again, another... Oh, you got it, Oscar. Thank you so much for tuning on in. We're rambling about Seneca Village right now. I gotta check that out. Absolutely, TYC. Absolutely. Let me break out my Seneca Village guide here. Because now, okay, we're Tanner. Whoa, they're making me do exercise here. We're going up to Summit Rock. We're going up to Summit Rock right now. What about the village that got dropped the bomb on in Pennsylvania? I don't know about that. I'm gonna have to look that up. Good to see you, Cecilia. The little incline here. Let's walk up Summit Rock. People were compensated when they were forced out of Seneca Village, but they weren't paid the real value of their land. They were kind of lowballed, unfortunately. Oh, there's our next way marker. Just across the street from this big white apartment building is the Natural History Museum, and a fantastic view of Midtown Manhattan from here. Summit Rock. We are here, baby. So here's a great representation of what the village looked like before Central Park. So we kind of entered through this side here, kind of went around, but all these little boxes right here, these are all of the homes. There's 1, 2, 3 churches. Here are the 3 churches. And underneath one of those churches was a school. Oh, for real? I did not know this. Exactly, yeah. There was literally nothing left. But this is at 142 feet. This hill is the highest elevation in Central Park. I did not know that. I thought that was Belvedere Castle. But at 142 feet above sea level, this is the highest elevation in Central Park and a prominent feature of the Seneca Village landscape. The hill, which is now called Summit Rock, is actually a massive grouping of bedrock, an outcropping of bedrock, Manhattan schist. Just below Central Park West, you can see the cross-section of this enormous rock. Right there, that's where we're standing. And it was rough, steep terrain, made it difficult for people to build. So obviously nobody really lived here. And here's this image does not depict Seneca Village, but a rock on the Hudson River, but kind of looked like this before the park came in. This location offered extensive views in all directions from the top, and village residents could take in the surrounding landscape in all 360 degrees. To the west, you saw the Hudson River, New Jersey beyond, and the rock provided a sense of prospect. It was a place in the village to take as a whole, or perhaps a spot for approaching visitors. So, if people wanted to come up here and cause problems, they knew people were coming from quite a long distance away. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go kind of down the pathway here. We're here at Summit Rock, and we're going to make our way to number 5 now and make our way over to our next location. This is the kind of stuff I live for, though. I really do love history, and more importantly, history that has been forgotten. People didn't really talk about Seneca Village until the late 1990s. People didn't really know it existed until the late 1990s. And then the Seneca Village project came into being in the early 2000s. And in 2011, they basically did a whole big archaeological survey of this entire area to see if there were any remnants of anything remaining. Good to see you there, Norm. Out there in Bangor, Pennsylvania. Welcome to Central Park. We're just rambling about the park here. We are now officially walking through Seneca Village. We're not that far from where Groucho Marx and Marilyn Monroe used to live. Sting used to have an apartment up here. Bono's apartment was up here in this section here in the 80s. Our next waymarker right in front of us here. So now this is the Irish. Here's the story of the Irish Americans who used to live here. So this says Mike Riley's. Although Mike Riley's name is on this map, researchers believe that Jane Allen actually lived in this shanty right here. Allen was 46, lived here with her 18-year-old daughter. They both came to the United States in the 1850s. Nothing is known about the Rileys, though as you see, their name appears in the census. Mike Bartlow, a laborer, and his wife occupied a shanty right here, roughly 170 square foot plan, which was quite small by today's standards. But Irish American families were scattered throughout Seneca Village, accounting for roughly 1/3 of the population during the 1850s. In the vicinity of this sign, the western side of the village was a cluster of at least 3 Irish American households, headed by John Gallagher, Mike Bartlow, and Jane Allen. Gallagher and his family occupied one half of a one-story frame house, which was nearby with a stable. So the Gallaghers live right here. Jane Allen and her daughter lived in another shanty owned by Mike Riley. The Irish immigrants began to settle here in Seneca Village beginning in the 1840s when the Great Irish Potato Famine was happening. They most likely came to the United States as part of the immigration wave of the Great Potato Famine. Many rural Irish families fleeing desperate living conditions in their homeland poured into the United States. Roughly 1.5 million came here to New York within the span of just a few years. Over 1 million refugees left Ireland for North America during this period, and with approximately 3/4 of them entering through New York City. Irish immigrants lived in other parts of what is today Central Park, including a small settlement between 68th and 72nd Street, which one newspaper called Pig Town. So there was an Irish rock quarry, there was a German rock quarry, there was an Irish pig farm. There were businesses here, man. Lost to the days of time. But now we're gonna cross. This is I want to say this is 85th Street now, right? We're roughly at around 85th Street. This is the 85th Street entrance, and we're gonna go to our next waymarker, which I see already. I'm not gonna lie, I'm having a lot of fun doing this right now. All this Manhattan schist all around us. We got 2 waymarker points right here. This is the All Angels Church. Thank you so much, Jim. Oh, really? So the stones, which are just visible, right? Oh, yeah, you could see it. Holy cow. So those aware of Seneca Village have speculated that the stones visible on this lawn here, just beyond the sign, are remnants of the foundation for the All Angels Church. The church was remnants of a sandbox that was installed in 1930, maybe also be part of that. But coincidentally, they mark the approximate location of the All Angels Church, one of three churches here in Seneca Village. And we could see how the church actually departs from the grid plan here. Yeah, I'm keeping this hand in a glove, Trudy. So baptisms were recorded here, marriages, burials. These baptisms of children, indicated as colored, took place in the 1850s. But this might be remnants of the church, or it's a sandbox which was built here in the 30s. So who knows? Who knows? And then we have another sign right here. We're actually in the middle of the town pretty much right now. Pretty much in the middle of town of Seneca Village. All right, so now I got another house here. The Wilson House. Here's a great picture of the excavations they did around here in 2011. Oh, wow. The photograph here shows the brick rubble believed to be part of a chimney and hearth of the Winston House. Based on discovery of archaeological materials, researchers have speculated that the house was also had a stone foundation, wooden floors, glass windows, a metal roof. Poor people did not live here. Squatters did not live here. This was a prominent community. Look at all this beautiful, are these artifacts here that were found here. So the Wilsons, African-American family consisting of William Wilson, his wife Charlotte, and their 8 children. Wilson worked as a porter and was also a sexton for the All Angels Church. So they were neighbors. And it was right here. But now we're literally now, we are in the center of town now. We have walked into the center of town now. And coming up here is a great timeline of how everything played out here. Happy to see people checking out the signage here today. It's really cool. And it's so peaceful up here right now. So here's a great map of the grid plan superimposed with what is today Central Park. So you see, like, we just walked up the old lane right here. We're now roughly here. So we kind of walked like around here. And we made our way up to Summit Rock right down there. But if you look close, this is where all the homes of the village were. See, so basically beginning in 1825, lands were acquired to buy, and they were quite cheap since they were so far removed from the city. And you know, the city all clustered up. Here's a little illustration here of the village was roughly in this area here. Hudson River, right there. Yeah, they're saying this is possibly the All Angels Church right there. The Colored Orphan Asylum, the Reservoir where we entered the village from, and then the Bloomingdale Dutch Reformed Church, Bloomingdale Road, Broadway today. Here's the larger receiving reservoir. This is where the Great Lawn is today. New York State Arsenal, the New York and Harlem Railroad. But we kind of came up through the town here, and now we're just gonna ramble about. And then here's a timeline here. Here's another image of the village here. There you go. We're rambling about this area right here. We started right about there. Good to see you, Jazz Dog. So, remember John Randall Jr.? He comes up here in 1850 and surveys all the major intersections here. 1870 was the Emancipation Law here in New York State. 1821, the Emancipation Law is finally enacted. But in order to vote, an African American man must own property that's valued at $250 or more. John and Elizabeth Whiteheads, those were the first folks in 1824 who bought land up here. And in 1825, more the African Americans begin to purchase land. They lock in the Zionist church here, begin building cemeteries. By this time, all the cemeteries down in the city are full, especially for African Americans. 1830, 86th Street and 8th Avenue come up this way. 1833, St. Michael's Church, which you're going to see in a little bit. 1832, cholera breaks out here in New York City. 3,500 die, 80,000 flee. So if you can imagine, you're all the way up here in Seneca Village. You were away from all this stuff. You were safe from all this outbreak of disease. 1834, anti-abolitionist riots begin to happen here in New York City, destroying many homes of prominent African Americans and then business leaders. 1836 is this map, which we see right here. And then 1842, the Crowan Aquifer is finally completed and built, which is right here. 1845, the Irish potato famine begins to happen. 1849, All Angels, St. Michael's builds All Angels Church. 1850, ideas for Central Park begin to bubble up in people's minds, and the city is a population of a little over 500,000 people. 6% are African American. 1853, they laid a cornerstone for the Zionist Episcopal Zion Church. 1853, New York State sets aside 750 acres of land to build Central Park. Then 1855, the land is surveyed for the park, destroying 52 homes and approximately 225 residents in the village here were all displaced. And then by 1857, all the residents were forced to leave, and it was destroyed forever. The timeline ends at 1861 with the outbreak of the Civil War. Amazing. Freaking amazing. Welcome to Seneca Village. Actually, here used to be the only sign that used to reference Seneca Village. This one right here. This gives you a little bit of the overlay here of the story. And actually, I'll scroll down this really slow here, so if you're watching this on a replay, you could pause and read this. It's tragic, Tracy. It's tragic. Pretty much there, Trudy. Yeah, the entire community was completely uprooted and destroyed. Oh, we're at the AME Zion Church now. Here it is. The AME Zion Church constructed their own church in Seneca Village. The congregation had grown considerably, and they had to rebuild their original church and constructed two other churches in Manhattan and one in Harlem. Numerous others along the East Coast around 1864. The mother church had outgrown its second building on Church Street and was using a large building shown here, which is now in the West Village. So this is not Seneca Village right here, but this is the AME Church in the West Village. And actually, is this the one? So this is the first AME church here, Zion Church from 1852, located on Church Street in Leonard, where the Jenga building is today. Right up the block from the Jenga building. It was right here. And then let's move down here. I think this is the other, this is the gardens here, yes. There were gardens here in Seneca Village. Here's another map. Summit Rock. Right here, that eyesore, yeah. These are all the buildings here. And as you see, they're all lined up with the grid plan here. You could just see the reservoir down here. So near this sign, a large garden was maintained by John P. Haff, a noted horticulturist, local innkeeper of German descent, although it's unclear if Haff was growing food for the village. Contemporary maps and descriptions suggest that other residents tended gardens, growing fruits, vegetables for their own families. Descriptions of other parts of the area that became Central Park mention that numerous gardens and access to outdoor spaces for this purpose was one of the benefits of living this far north. And that's true. You were away from everyone. You're away from the disease. You're away from the overcrowding. You were in your own little isolated area here. You didn't have to worry about, especially for African Americans, to be killed and hung in the street and stuff like that because you were up here. I think what's the most amazing part is that, you know, there's evidence of free blacks, Irish and German immigrants commingling. They all got along up here. And the fact that some of them even intermarried or were at baptisms and funerals, it really shows you how cohesive the neighborhood was. Here's the African Union Church. Just had a small earthquake. Where are you watching from, Phantom? African Union Church here. So near this sign stood the first church here in Seneca Village, the African Union Church, a Methodist church built around 1840. The original congregation formed in and around Wilmington, Delaware, and its leaders built the first church in Manhattan in 1836 on 15th Street near 6th Avenue. Lexington, Kentucky, you're getting an earthquake. That is not good. The small church was used as a burial ground. William Matthews, a man from Delaware who lived in Seneca Village, worked as a sexton, and he was looking after the church and his grave and the churchyard. Next to the church was a small primary school, colored school number 3, and based on census records, a comparatively high percentage of African American families in Seneca Village sent their children to this school. Little is known about this school and the church. They represent, though, an important role here of the African American institutions that were established here in Seneca Village to continue their autonomy here. How strong was the earthquake there, Phantom? We're getting earthquakes here. That's not good. I'm glad you're loving this. All right. So now I have to go. I am making the left. I am making the left-hand turn here. So let's go left. We're going up here. We're going up this way here. We're walking through the town. We're passing the AME church. We're passing the gardens now. And we're going to our next wave marker. Not strong, just a small rumble. All right, good. We don't want no earthquakes here. We don't want no earthquakes. I want all my viewers to be safe. Oh, I see what I'm going to do. I'm going to go underneath the pathway here. Here's my next way marker. I see it. I see it right now. We're just south of the 86th Street Traverse, which is right behind there. That black fence right there is the 86th Street Traverse. KC Pilot, good to see you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much. So, Andrew Williams, his plot of land. Ooh, he had a big plot of land. And here's his name in the census here. This is great to have all the census information here on these signs. So near the sign stood the house of Andrew Williams and his family. Williams is an important figure in Seneca Village history. He was the first African American to purchase land in this area in September of 1825. Williams, who was boot black, he shined shoes, lived in Lower Manhattan and was likely affiliated with the AME Zion Church, which also purchased some of the initial land up here in Seneca Village. 30 years later, when the plans for Central Park were underway, Williams still owned his house and 3 other plots of land. Information from an 1855 map and the state census allows for a closer look at Williams and some of his neighbors, giving us a better sense of the makeup of Seneca Village. So all these people here who lived up here, they were not squatters. They owned the land. They were not squatters. But when the ideas for Central Park were revealed, like I said, it was, you know, they constantly downplayed the fact that these people actually owned the land. And I could imagine that some politicians, some unscrupulous politicians, didn't like the fact that because these African Americans owned the land, they were able to vote. They had power. These were upwardly mobile people. They took care of themselves, and this was like I said, a completely self-sufficient town here, a little village here. But it's kind of amazing how nothing exists. Exactly. It's amazing how history is written by the victors, unfortunately. But it's nice to know that now in this day and age of the internet that, you know, more and more people are learning the truth. So now I'm going to cut across the main drive here very gingerly because I see bikers and I see joggers. people using the park. And the bridle path is right here. So this pathway here is the bridle path. This is where you ride your horses here in the park. And then the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir is just on the other side here of the 86th Street Traverse. But I see my next way marker, which is right over here. We're here at the Arthur Ross Pinetum. I'm assuming this is a collection of pine trees over here. As that sun begins to set. Yeah, I've been walking a bit here. Exactly. It's always an ulterior motive. That's why you always got to take sometimes history with a bit of a grain of salt. Sometimes look deeper into stuff. As that sun begins to set here in New York City. The Reservoir Keepers. We made it back to the receiving reservoir. I think we're up here now. But 1842, the Croton Aquifer is completed, and which supplied the city with fresh drinking water for the first time. The system included a large receiving reservoir, which was pretty much right here. And in addition to its physical presence of a massive structure, the reservoir impacted the community in other ways. Two men, John Greery and John Wallace, were employed by the city to take care of this reservoir, and they lived here in Seneca Village with their families. They were a part of a group of employees who lived adjacent to the important pieces of the aquifer infrastructure project. And in order to maintain it, both of them were Irish immigrants, and they were part of a growing Irish community which lived up here in Seneca Village. By 1855, made up 1/3 of the population of Seneca Village. You're more than welcome, Gail. You're more than welcome. All right, so now I've got to figure out where I'm going to go next. I'm at number 10, right? I'm way up here. Let's see here. I got to see where am I at here? Oh, there's another one further up. We missed one. Okay, we gotta go actually further up here to the actual Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir. Number 14, we're going to the downtown connections. I gotta talk about the downtown connections. So yes, you have the draft riots of the 1840s were going on, and if you could imagine, horrible atrocities to the African American population were committed during these riots. And you could imagine, I do have a portable battery, and horrible atrocities were taking place downtown. So luckily, here we are, far removed from the city, about 4 miles north from where the city pretty much ended. I could imagine this was an oasis of safety and for the people who lived up here. Here's 86th Street Traverse. And then we're going up to our next wayfinding here sign. Okay, I see where it is. Okay, so now we are walking in the bridle path here. Oh, and we have a picture of the two people, some of the first people who moved up here. So this picture here depicts Albert Lyons and his wife Mary Joseph Marshall, depicted here in a rare photograph from the 1860. Arborough was a noted abolitionist, operated a boarding house for African American sailors on Pearl Street in Lower Manhattan. So near this sign here was their home, were 4 plots owned by Albert Lyons, Peter Guillon, and Rebecca Marshall, and Guillon's wife. Related by marriage, the Lyons and the Guillons families were all a part of a small, tight-knit group of African Americans who prospered in New York City before the Civil War. Despite numerous obstacles, they became community leaders committed to the racial uplift and notable contributions to culture, economic, and political life here in the city. Oh, they did not actually, the Lyons and the Guillons did not actually live in Seneca Village. Many African Americans owned property in the village but lived downtown. Purchasing the property in Seneca Village was an investment for the future. Many were also likely motivated to buy property as a path to the suffrage. 1821, New York State passed a law allowing African Americans, or free African American men, to own property valued at $250 or more in order to vote. The link between Seneca Village and these families and others downtown illustrate, despite settlements in geographical remoteness, it was still connected to the city's larger African American community. Here's a picture of Peter. He had various jobs, including a hairdresser in 1858 when the park was built. He moves out to Brooklyn, where he worked at a pharmacy. Wow. And then here are their plots of land right here. So even like women, see, like even the heirs of the Rebecca Guillon family, like even women own land up here, which is kind of amazing. All right, so now we're gonna make our way back south now. So we make our way around the village. So it's at 13. Now we're gonna go to number 12. 12 and 11. So now we're gonna go all the way around the town here, all the way around the village. As people begin to gather behind me to listen to my stories. I'm just reading the sign, folks. Just reading the sign. But yeah, you gotta have a portable battery when it's this cold out here. My phone will not last a very time out here in this cold weather, so probably lasts all of about 20 minutes. We're now pushing 93 minutes on the live stream. Look at that, it doesn't even feel like it to me. It does not even feel like it to me. Let's make our way down. As we begin to make our way back, the sun is beginning to set. Here in New York. Appreciate that, Cheryl. It has gone quick. Time flies when you're having fun, right? Time flies when you're having fun. And actually, it is on the Great Lawn, which we're directly adjacent to. That is where Diana Ross had her big concert in 1983. And I see my next waymarker. I gotta give, again, a big shout out to the Central Park Conservancy for putting up these signs. I hope these are permanent. They're evidently gonna take them down in a few months. So if you're up here in New York, definitely check this out. Or you could go to the Central Park Conservancy website and actually download all the information from these signs here. So now we're going to talk about the genealogy here of the park. So here we are. We've kind of walked. Here's Summit, right? The Summit Rock. Here's the Reservoir. We kind of went around. I don't know why they would take them down, but I heard they weren't permanent. I hear that they're not permanent, so hopefully they will be permanent. Here's a great depiction here of how rugged this land was. That's kind of amazing. It's a cross section there. The genealogy of this area is still visible throughout this section of the park. It was a daily part of the lives of the residents of Seneca Village right here. Depictions of the village in the 1850s noted numerous outcroppings of Manhattan schist, the bedrock of Manhattan Island. Formed over 500 million years ago, including the massive outcropping of Summit Rock. We know that this rock was used in construction of some of the buildings here in Seneca Village, and the archaeological excavations in 2011 and 2016 uncovered foundations made of schist and possibly a quarry nearby. This same rock contributed to the city's ascendance to its modern metropolis, the bedrock of Manhattan. But the park's designers, Olmsted and Vaux, they had to carve this rock. They had to make it look good. It always comes down to the bedrock in the end. During the excavation, the house of Seneca Village resident William G. Wilson was discovered. A portion of the foundation wall comprised mostly of local schist, with some river stones, broken bricks were all held together by mortar. It's kind of amazing. But we have walked, right? We have walked through Seneca Village. We have, I think, one more sign to go to. And we're going to hear about the livelihoods of these folks who used to live up here. Let's read about the livelihoods of the people who used to live up here. And that will be our final way marking post. Right? Yeah, all before sundown. That's right. I had to be sure I wasn't here, before it gets too dark, because we do want to read the signs. Look, another great map here of all the way markers here of Seneca Village. We kind of went around the whole thing here. Now we're making our way down to here, which is right there. I could see it. And there's the Great Lawn, right over there through the trees. I think I earned myself a beer or two this evening. I think I'm going to treat myself to a beer. All this walking here. So what kind of lives did people live here in Seneca Village? One more view here. Here's the landowner view. I earned a hot bath, yes. So here's Ishmael Allen lived here. He was 40 years old. He lived with his family, rented a shanty, worked in the Sexton Church. He was somebody who maintained the church in the graveyard. Nancy Moore, she died in 1854. The Webster family rented her large home. George, 32, worked as a porter. His 18-year-old stepdaughter, Malvina Hall, was a domestic. William and Matilda Phillips, a young couple, 23 and 19 respectively, who rented a shanty from Elizabeth Harding, who worked as a laborer. Sally Winston, 59 years old, she owned her home. The census lists her as washing, which likely means that she did laundry for others. Philip Dunn, he lived right here. Philip Dunn, 37, he was a policeman of Irish descent, lived in a house by William Peace, an African-American, who also lived in the village and worked as a grocer. So you see, here all these jobs, they had regular jobs. These were like, a lot of African-Americans, they were kind of pushed out of like prominent job roles. So you hear they're working very regular jobs, but they owned the land, they owned the property. So right here we have James Hinton, 50. He worked as a homeowner. He was a homeowner who worked as a copper, or a coppersmith, someone who makes and repairs barrels. He lived with his 3 children, oldest 18 years old, Elizabeth, who was a domestic. Harry Garnett lived right here. Again, not squatters, exactly. Henry Garnett, longtime resident of Seneca Village. By 1855, he was 88 years old and listed as a gardener. And then the Silver family, which is right next door. Silver family shared a house with another family called the Jimersons. Charles Silver, a Haitian-born head of the household, worked as a cook, and his son Peter, 22, was a coachman, and his wife Catherine, 25, was a domestic. John Jimerson was listed as a, and I like this, as an old preacher Methodist in the census, but it was unclear which church he actually worked in. But this really gives you an idea of what kind of jobs they had. Yeah, Haitian born. Yeah. Isn't that kind of amazing? Haitian born descent. So like you get an idea. Thank you so much, Norm. You get an idea of like these people were your people, awesome. These people were landowners. They had jobs. They weren't savages or uncivilized people. These people had businesses and lives and jobs, and more importantly, they were landowners. That means they had the right to vote. They had political power. So I could imagine another catalyst for them for getting them out of here was the simple fact that they were becoming politically and financially mobile. But I have to say that one lady who decided to stop with her crying kid behind me only did that because I was reading the stupid sign. Always fun on the live stream. Let's make our way down south. We're gonna make our way down right now. I don't know where I'm gonna go now, but we have rambled about Seneca Village, and we're still gonna enjoy the park now. But we're gonna end this tour in Columbus Circle. So I guess on the way, we'll stop by Strawberry Fields, see what's going on over there. Right, of course she did. Yeah, did you hear that? I had to really talk into the mic. And then she's like looking at me when I turned around. She's like staring at me with her kid crying. And it's like, okay. And she's talking on the phone to top it off. So, New York, you never disappoint. Look at that beautiful sky. Self-important people up here on the upper west side. Ugh. Anyway. Look at the whole park's empty. She has to stop right behind me. Okay, we're coming back up on to the Delacorte Theater now. We'll make our way now down the west side here as I make my way back to the subway to go home. And I literally came up here just to take you guys on a walk around Central Park. So I really do appreciate the super chats and everything. And I appreciate everyone's comments and questions and just overall awesomeness. You know, actually, you want to hear something funny, Trudy? I am not cold. I am not cold right now at all. Delacorte Theater, right up there. I am not cold. It's been really fun actually showing you guys this. I've been, meaning to do this for a while. Do I like the underground market at Columbus Circle? It's pretty okay. It's all right. It's nothing to go crazy about. I appreciate that, Trudy. I might have missed some comments there because I was reading the plaques there. So you're more than welcome, Melissa. But I really do appreciate you guys tuning on in. So it's a lot of fun doing these walks. But now let's make our way back south. Everything's holding up pretty good here. The gimbal's holding up good. I know the gimbal doesn't have that much power. The gimbal probably has another maybe hour of power left before this thing goes. But we're just going to take in the scenes now as we make our way south along the west side of Central Park. But I figure since it's Martin Luther King Day, let's talk about some history, about some free African Americans. And mind you, they bought that land in 1825, right? The first family buys their land in 1825. And then slavery wasn't fully abolished until 1827. But then, mind you, slave owners could come up here from the South with their slaves and still treat them as property. It still took about 30 years for the slave trade to be completely banned and abolished here in New York City. So a whole generation, you had this whole kind of overlapping generation of people who were still enslaved. Volvo Tango, good to see you. And oh my goodness, Phantom! Thank you so much, April, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Yeah, me too, Tracy. These are fun. For me as a tour guide, these keep my brain fresh. So thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. I think I'm only $30 away from my payout, so we're at 18 right now, so. We're getting ever so close to the payout. I appreciate that, April. I appreciate that. I don't take it lightly. Every dollar I take very seriously. That just keeps me doing what I'm doing. It's been fun. It's just been fun. Adam with the $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Adam. Really appreciate it. You guys bought me a hot chocolate and then some. All right. I think I could walk out here on the path here. So that's what we're gonna do right now. So Natural History Museum, it's right over there. The Twin Towers of the San Remo apartments right over there. And here's a guy who won't mind his own business. Get 11 cookie, now you're talking. I make my own white claw there, Adam. If you want to make your homemade truly, all you need is Tanqueray, a tall glass, and some lemon lime seltzer. So that's how it works. Get a tall glass, 16 ounces, or a pint. Put 3 very large ice cubes into the glass. Pour yourself about a shot and a half of Tanqueray, and then fill the rest with lemon lime seltzer. Here's where it gets weird. Get yourself a fork and basically move the ice through your drink so that you let the seltzer bubble. And the more you let your seltzer kind of bubble, it mixes the Tanqueray to the point where you really cannot taste the Tanqueray. And it tastes like water. It tastes like you're drinking water. That's the problem with the homemade Truly. It looks like water and it tastes like water. And have about 2 or 3 of those and you're ready to go to bed. So this freaking guy here with the white bag here is slowing down because he wants to hear what I'm talking about. Freaking busybodies, man. What the hell? I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna have to stop again to let him walk further up ahead. Let's get a cool little vista here really quick though. Let's get a cool little vista here and throw off the guy with the bag here who wants to listen in on the live stream here by walking into the park here. We're on the western edge now of the Ramble, and we're gonna go onto the Oak Bridge. People can't mind their own business, exactly. Me too, Adam. Let's go into the Oak Bridge. Look how beautiful it is here in the Ramble here. And he's a noisy neighbor who, like, you know, blasts terrible techno music. Look at this view right here. Let's just take this in. Look at this, New York City. New York City, right there. It's a great bridge which takes you into the western end of the Ramble. Isn't that neat? The Singer building right there, the skinniest and tallest skyscraper in the world. And then this building right here, this is the Central Park South Tower, or the Normstrom building. This has the highest occupiable floor in North America, higher than the Willis Tower in Chicago. And then right there in the middle, 157 West 57th Street. During Hurricane Sandy, they were building this building and the crane toppled over and That crane that toppled over was directly above Carnegie Hall. And if that crane would have collapsed, would have completely destroyed Carnegie Hall. But luckily that did not happen. The lake, no special name, just called the lake. I love New York, even with its busybodies. Okay, let's continue on down the west side here. Right, damn them slivers. They gotta start limiting these towers here because, you know, the park is getting in shadow. So, did a pretty long one. We're at 110 minutes right now. We're not done yet. Exactly, Melissa. You know, when Frederick Lahr Olmsted and Calvert Vaux designed the park, you know, they believed that this was a cure for, you know, for alcoholism and for adultery, you know. They thought that when you left the debaucherous city, you reformed yourself here in nature. You scintillated with the trees and the birds, became one with nature, calmed your brain. Maybe TYC, maybe. Yes, it was kind of a cure for tuberculosis because what they needed to do was just spread out everyone. Everyone needed fresh air to breathe. So when the park was first heralded, it was called the lungs of New York. William Cullen Bryan Park fame, he was an advocate for Central Park. Bank of America building at Bryan Park is a it really is it's a tall building trigger. Always something. Always something. All right, what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna get some exercise. We're gonna walk up a hill, and we're gonna take a stroll through Strawberry Fields, and then after that we'll see Tavern on the Green, Ghostbusters building, and I guess our final story will be the Gulf and Western building. Yeah, no, the air was filthy back in the day there, Trudy. The air was filthy back in the day. Beautiful views here as we make our way around. 432 Park Avenue, right there in the middle of the shot. The tallest building in the Western Hemisphere, the tallest residential building in the Western Hemisphere. Right, the light is gorgeous right now, right, Trudy? As the lights turn on here in Central Park. Yeah, the elevators run at like something like 2,200 feet a minute or something like that. They could basically get you from the bottom to the top in like 50 seconds. The World Trade Center, #1 World Trade Center, has the 4th fastest elevators in the world. And I could imagine the elevators in some of these really thin buildings like 432 Park Avenue, the Singer Building, the Central Park South Tower. They all have very comparably fast elevators too. That's right, yeah, checking those photography shots, right? This is the time to come out. This is the time to come out, baby. All right, time to get some exercise. I gotta walk up this hill. Time for me to walk up this hill. As we're going to Strawberry Fields. And the Dakota apartment is right there. A 15 degree incline here. You know, it's so nice having the park closed to car traffic because this spot right here was always like treacherous to walk up. Now pretty much all you have to worry about is park maintenance vehicles. But coming up next, Strawberry Fields. Strawberry Fields is recognized by 151 countries all around the world as an international peace garden. And of course, its focal point is The imagined mosaic. The imagined mosaic, a gift from the city of Naples to the city of New York. Simple black and white tiled mosaic, which says imagine. Yes, that's coming up, Volvo. Correct. That's around 65th Street. Around. There's no highway under Central Park. There's traverses. You have 65th Street. You have 79th Street. And you have 86th Street. You hear me out of breath now. yeah. That's what replay's for. That's what replay's for there, April. So in 1983, Yoko Ono was able to acquire this section of Central Park to be reshaped in John Lennon's memory. This is something you never see. Look at this. There is nobody here. It was his 70th. Okay. Your old stomping grounds, that's right. All right. We've made it. The imagined mosaic. So this black and white tiled mosaic is made of clay from the volcano Pompeii. Yeah, no flowers today. I don't think the flowers would last very long. They gotta repair this because they got a big old crack right here. Right? You never get it this empty. You never get it this empty. That's what I love. The people walking past me are listening to a Central Park walking tour in Portuguese. That's kind of cool. All right, perfect picture, right? All right. Let's make our way down the hill now. And we're going to go back up another one. As we make our way down to Tavern on the Green. No, nothing medicinal, if you will, no. Okay. Let's see where I gotta go. I'm gonna kind of do some shortcuts here. No dinosaur bones were ever found here in Central Park. If they were dinosaur bones, they were probably destroyed in the construction of the park. So now we're just at around 72nd Street. Straight down there was where the Bethesda Terrace was. And we got our map just down there. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna cross the road here and continue to go south here. So again, a big shout out to Central Park Conservancy for having these brochures about Seneca Village at the ready. So if you do find yourself wanting to come up here and doing this walking tour on your own, just go to one of the information kiosks and they'll give you a map. Somebody blasting Weezer, because why not? Why not? Somebody blasting Weezer. Why not? It's Central Park. Okay. We're not that far from Robert De Niro's house right now. And there's a Society for Ethics is right there. right over there, but through the trees. Yeah, a perfect song for strolling through the park. Da 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 da. At the 2-hour mark, pedicabs are, they don't have to be expensive. If you come out here in the off season, it's actually quite cheap. Yes, they still do a drumming circle up there in Cherry Hill, especially on the really hot days. But basically, if you're going to take a rickshaw ride, a pedicab ride, you basically plan out your pricing before you leave. Yeah, not with unlimited biking though. Unlimited biking, we do bicycle tours, we do walking tours, and we do carriage rides, horse carriage rides. But no pedicabs. Uh-oh, there goes the gimbal. I'm getting the warning light on the gimbal. Yeah. No, they're like electric pedal assist bikes. I'm gonna keep the gimbal going until it completely dies out. I'm getting the warning light on the gimbal. That's about right, 2 hours. 2 hours to the minute. It's kind of amazing. It is cold, so I can imagine it's doing a little bit extra work here in the cold. Would it help if I ran? No. It'll make the motors work more, so. Indiana Jones kind of type of rickshaw, yeah. Wish I had my gimbal wire with me. I would have plugged you guys in. Okay, so right across the way, the Sheep's Meadow. This is where that German family rock quarry used to be, and where they may have quarried some rock for the foundations for some of the homes in Seneca Village. Finish line to the New York City Marathon. It's right here. How do I keep holding the camera so my arm doesn't ache? That I cannot answer. I don't know. My arm does not ache though. This whole rig is pretty light, so it's not very heavy. So, in the days before lawnmowers, sheep used to cut the grass here at the Sheep's Meadow. And like I said earlier, it's a completely man-made environment, an engineered environment. The entire glade of grass, that's what I wanted to say. the entire glade there is on a slope so that it could drain out within a couple of hours so that people could enjoy it. It's like walking on a carpet out there. Dogs are not allowed in the Sheep's Meadow. And then there's 55 Central Park West, the Ghostbusters building, right there. Beautiful Art Deco building. And then where did the sheep live? Right here in what is today's Tavern on the Green. This is your sheepfold. At the beginning of the Great Depression in the early 1930s, the sheep were banished to Prospect Park in Brooklyn because the city forefathers thought that people who were living here in the park would begin eating the sheep. So they sent the sheep out to Brooklyn, where they lived until around 1955. As you see now, it's getting a little bit more crowded now. here in the southern end of the park. Almost to the end of our little tour. Gimbal should be able to make it. It's still doing the slow blink. I know the gimbal battery is going to die when the blinking becomes more rapid. A crazy skyline there. You know, it always amazes me looking at this skyline. How fast I've seen it change, how many changes I've seen over the years. That's why downtown Brooklyn freaks me out so often, because it's just so different from just a few years ago. Very pretty evening. Again, if you're prepared, if you bundle up, it's actually quite nice. You hate those toothpicks in the sky? A lot of people hate those toothpicks in the sky. You know, a lot of people to say, which I agree, these tall, thin toothpicks of buildings do cast shadows here in Central Park. And you don't want to walk around in a shadow when you're here in Central Park. You want to walk around in the sunshine. And the plantings and the trees need sunshine in order to live. You know, Trudy, it is true. It is a fact that a lot of them are empty. In my heart of hearts, I like to imagine one day all the real estate developers saying, you know what, F it. Let's rent out all the apartments for $500 each. and all the regular common people begin occupying these super tall, super thin buildings. Even though I would not want to live in one of these really thin buildings, I just don't trust them. I did visit an apartment once, about 5 years ago. I did visit an apartment in 432 Park Avenue. It was a beautiful apartment. It was on the 38th floor, but even though it was only on the 38th floor, we were really high up. The windows in 432 Park Avenue are 10 by 10 foot squared, and all the apartments are a minimum of 2 to 3 levels. Exactly, Jim. Exactly. 432 Park Avenue has a tuned mass damper, and actually also the Singer building also has a tuned mass damper. A tuned mass damper is a massive piece of steel and concrete, and it's basically a big weight that is surrounded by shock absorbers. And as the wind hits the building, this mass damper counteracts the sway of the building, so you never feel the building sway in the wind. But I got to see the tuned mass damper at 432 Park Avenue in action, and it was nothing short of insane. I saw close to 200,000 pounds of concrete move around like it was on jelly. But there is a video of the tuned mass damper in 432 Park Avenue here on YouTube. So just look up tuned mass damper, 432 Park Avenue, and you'll find this video. But I got to see that in person. It was a windy day. I believe it was February or March. It was the winter time. But one of my friends who works in the real estate industry, he said, hey, I know you want to see the inside of this building. You are a tour guide after all. All you gotta do is put on a clean shirt and you get to drink free wine. And I was like, tell me the place and tell me the time. So it was quite amazing seeing a furnished room too. It was a whole furnished apartment too. Here is 15 Central Park South. Melanie Griffith lives in there. Alex Rodriguez lives in there. Denzel Washington has an apartment in there. And a 22-year-old Russian girl has one of the 2 penthouse apartments. She has an infinity pool that looks out onto Central Park. It was recently found out that she only lives in her apartment maybe 2 weeks out of the year. For the rest of the year, her family rents out the apartment for around $60,000 a month. And I believe they bought the apartment for like 22.5 million or something like that. I know, right? Yesterday, Bears in Coney Island. Today, Seneca Village in Central Park. It is great to be rich, right? And yes, the Zamperlas. They live in this building, right? The older one, right? Mr. Zamperla. It's a beautiful, it's like a Roma. It's like a once in a lifetime. Right? They got a penthouse view too. Nice. Mr. Z and his penthouse view. As we come back to the realities of our lives, we are now approaching Columbus Circle. I would love to know how many steps I walked. Our final story here in our walking tour. This tall black building, the Gulf and Western building, this is the building that was shown in the movie Tower Heist. Today, the Trump International Hotel and Tower. This building used to sway too much. So the workers who used to work at the top floor used to get sick all the time. So thus the building wasn't fully rented out. In the early 1980s, Gulf and Western moves their headquarters, and a guy by the name of Donald Trump buys it. His idea was to demolish the entire building and build a new one, but zoning has changed by this time. And if he were to demolish this building, he would have to build he was only allowed to build up to the 13th floor, which is roughly the height of 15 Central Park West. So he had two architects. Philip Johnson, he designs the exterior, and Costas Kondylis designs the interior. Costas Kondylis has an idea. Let's weigh down the building so that the building doesn't sway that much in the wind. So he fills up the walls with concrete, and it works. Philip Johnson clads the building. It was originally supposed to be all black, but Donald Trump wanted a little bit of gold, so he added the gold, and there goes the gimbal. The gimbal has died. The gimbal has died. And we have made it just in time. We made it out of Central Park. There we go, folks. Let me flip around the camera. It's all jittery for you guys now. Wasn't that fun? All right. I know, what a difference, right? Okay. Well, we made it out of the park. You heard all my stories, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little walk around Central Park, discovering Seneca Village on this Martin Luther King Day. But have a great New York day, whether you live here or not. Hug your loved ones, cherish the moments, never write out your friends, and good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are. No, the beer's too expensive at Whole Foods. I'm gonna go back to home. I'm going back to Brooklyn where beer prices are more reasonable. I'll see you later, folks. Thank you so much for tuning on in. I'm gonna have lunch. I'll see you guys soon, folks. Bye-bye.